So this is the third day, and you can now see that there's a good amount of sap in here. I don't want to dump the water in, but you can see that's all just from 3 days. And you can see there's a yellowish color to it, and that's the color of the syrup. So that is working pretty well. This is the one that we have 2 taps from the tree going into the bucket. So here's the experiment tree. You can see we have the tap on the sunny side of the tree and then another tap on the shady side of the tree. It doesn't get as much sun, and we're wanting to see, does the sunny side produce more sap than the shady side? We have these sticks on the lids to keep them from blowing off, keep it more stable. So here we have a pretty good amount of sap in there, and if we compare that to this bucket, it's pretty similar. This one might have a little bit more, but it's kind of hard to tell just on the 3rd day. We'll wait a little bit longer and see how much that changes. You can actually see how much sap is in the buckets just without even taking the cap off. And this one has a pretty good amount in there, as you can see. This one has 2 taps. If you look at this bucket here, you can actually see the sap dripping in. It'll actually make the sap move, and you can see it right there. We definitely know we're getting sap out of this tree. The first year that we did this sap, we didn't put lids on the buckets, and that was a big mistake. You can see even here, the water is building up. All this would just be in the bucket. We just filled the buckets up with like rainwater, and we didn't know how much sap we had. So lids is definitely a necessity on the buckets. It's very important that your buckets stay flat because you don't want it to fill up with sap and then spill over. That's really frustrating. Make sure you have it on a flat spot, and if there isn't a flat spot, you want to dig a flat spot into the tree. And of course, right as I say that, I knocked the bucket over, but there wasn't actually very much sap in here, and it looks like there's a crack in the bottom, so we'd have to end up replacing this bucket anyway. While we're fixing the bucket, we'll just let it drip into the lid so we don't lose the sap. So yesterday, while we were up here checking the sap, we took our electric chainsaw and cut up some of this wood. This is about 1 battery's charge of wood. This one has some spalting pattern on it. I don't know if we're gonna be able to burn this. Good appreciation for wood. It's really hard to burn something like this, but we're not gonna burn this. Here is pretty much down to nothing, so if we don't have a way to keep the sap cold, we don't want to leave it sitting out because it'll go bad, so we might actually have to start boiling it early. So last year in the fall, we had one of the very worst ice storms. It totally collapsed the greenhouse. It had a freezing rain and built up a solid layer of ice, and then we had probably about 6 inches of snow on top of that. So everything crashed. There was trees on the lines everywhere, and our greenhouse definitely took a beating. Some logs we found last year with some spalting pattern on it, and we definitely couldn't burn these. And now we're turning them into stools from what this used to be. This is actually the exact same stool as this, except I took off the top and took the finish off on the bottom. I still need to finish the top again, but this really looks much, much better. So we're gonna be using this soldering iron to plastic weld the bucket back together so we can put it back out in the woods without it leaking. So what we're gonna do is melt the plastic on the crack and then form it back together so it's watertight. And well, it looks like this bucket is sealed and it's not leaking, so we can go ahead and take it back up into the woods and get it collecting sap. Looks like this bucket's a little bit crooked, so we'll need to fix that. We definitely don't want that one tipping over. This plant sure is something crazy. In the middle of winter, it still has these little red seeds, maybe. And this thing is so thorny. There's these super small, very, very sharp thorns. I wouldn't want to get caught on that. So it doesn't look like we lost much here. We have a little bit in the lid there, so we really didn't have much to lose. So we can go ahead and dump that little bit back in the bucket and then put this lid back on and get it collecting sap again. So that's day 3 of collecting the maple sap. So I hope you guys found this video useful, And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.